The battle for control of the Senate is in the hands of Georgia voters on January 5th.
Georgia is making history as the eyes of the nation focus on the landmark Senate runoff election.
And the fight for the balance of power rests on your ballot.
Corruption has a name in Georgia. Kelly Loeffler.
Raphael Warnock, the radical's radical.
David Perdue, out for himself, not for our health.
John Ossoff believes if you repeat a lie enough, people might believe it.
In two rare runoff races, Senator Kelly Loeffler is trying to keep her seat from Democratic challenger Reverend Raphael Warnock. And businessman John Ossoff fights to unseat Republican Senator David Perdue. The non-stop ads are constantly coming from every direction. So we are separating fact from fiction to help you on Election Day. 11 Alive's Verified team presents Verify the Vote, what you need to know about the claims against the candidates. Ethics questions are at the heart of the Senate race between incumbent Kelly Loeffler and Reverend Raphael Warnock. Political ads claim Republican Senator Loeffler sold stocks after receiving information during a private COVID-19 Senate briefing. Joe Hinkie verifies one of the ads from her Democratic challenger.
11 Alive viewer Jay Zanman emailed us. Both Democrats in the U.S. Senate races claim their opponents sold/purchased stock based on a private meeting where they were the first to learn about the pandemic. Did our senators trade or have someone trade on their direction based on this inside information? Good question, Jay. For Senator Kelly Loeffler, a campaign ad from her opponent, Reverend Raphael Warnock, makes that claim. So let's verify the campaign ad as we also answer your question. As we do that, here are our sources. Senator Loeffler's publicly available financial disclosures of her stock trades, along with her past interviews and tweets.
January 6th, billionaire Kelly Loeffler is sworn into office, and over the next 18 days doesn't make a single stock transaction.
U.S. senators frequently file public financial disclosures, and Loeffler's show her and her husband did not move stocks for 18 days after she was sworn into office. So that claim we can verify is true.
Then Loeffler receives a confidential briefing on the threat of coronavirus and immediately starts dumping stocks. As Kelly Loeffler downplays the threat publicly, she makes sale after sale, getting rid of $3.1 million before the market crashes.
On January 24th, Loeffler tweeted about receiving a briefing from the president's top health officials on the coronavirus outbreak. The ad claims Loeffler immediately began dumping stock totaling $3.1 million before the market crashed. Loeffler's filings show 27 stocks were sold between the day of the meeting and a mid-February market crash. Senate filings only list ranges for transactions, and Loeffler's add up to between $1.3 and $3.1 million.
I am informed only after those trades are made. I have nothing, in terms of a say in what buys and sells are executed, what that timing is.
Loeffler also tweeted on March 20th, "I do not make investment decisions for my portfolio. Investment decisions are made by multiple third-party advisors without my or my husband's knowledge or involvement." And a copy of Loeffler's disclosures provided by her campaign show notes given to the Senate Ethics Committee, reading transactions notified to filer on or after February 16, 2020. We cannot verify the claim that after a Senate coronavirus briefing, she began dumping stocks totaling $3.1 million.
New tonight, the Department of Justice is dropping its investigation against Senator Kelly Loeffler.
Loeffler and multiple other senators were investigated for claims they used insider information following the January coronavirus briefing, but in May, the DOJ dropped the investigation against Loeffler and her campaign called it exoneration. In April, Loeffler wrote a commentary in the Wall Street Journal and said to end any distractions, she would be selling off all individual stocks, transition to mutual funds, and her financial disclosures do show 92 stocks were sold in April. She stopped short of saying she would use a blind trust, something her predecessor, Johnny Isakson, did. So to answer Jay's question, we cannot verify Senator Loeffler or someone she directed used insider information to dump stocks. We can verify, looking back though, that Senator Loeffler has since stopped trading individual stocks and the investigation into her trading was dropped.
Ads against Democratic candidate Raphael Warnock focus mainly on his words and actions as a reverend at Ebenezer Baptist Church, as well as his work as a leader of previous congregations. Liza Lucas verifies viral clips of alleged anti-military remarks by Reverend Warnock.
America, nobody can serve God and the military.
More than 2 million views and counting. This video of Reverend Raphael Warnock, now a rallying cry for some Republicans online, calling Warnock anti-military. His opponent, Senator Kelly Loeffler, tweeting he should apologize to active military members and veterans. Other Republicans say he should drop out of the race. We turn to Warnock's campaign for answers. The campaign confirming the source of the video is from an old sermon called When Truth Meets Power. Here's the rest of the viral clip.
You can't serve God and money. You cannot serve God and mammon at the same time. America, choose ye this day whom you will serve.
According to the campaign, Warnock is referencing the Bible, specifically Matthew 6:24, about serving two masters. He addressed Republicans' criticisms at a recent press conference.
The gospel lesson says that you cannot serve God and mammon, that a person cannot have two masters. It is a spiritual lesson that is basic and foundational for people of faith. What I was expressing was the fact that as a person of faith, my ultimate allegiance is to God. And therefore, whatever else that I may commit myself to, it has to be built on a spiritual foundation.
So is the viral video indeed legitimate? We verified yes, but Warnock's campaign says the statement is taken out of context. Have a question or claim that needs a closer look? Send us an email at verify@11alive.com.
Still to come, Jon Ossoff facing claims he supported both the Communist Party and the Chinese government. Plus, as Georgia small businesses fight to keep their doors open, did Senator David Perdue block government assistance? We'll verify it all next. Senator David Perdue has been criticized for his handling of the pandemic by Democratic challenger Jon Ossoff. Paulo Suro verifies the accusation he didn't back small businesses when they needed it most.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, when many businesses are struggling, a claim made against Senator David Perdue says he voted to block small business aid. Many viewers online are asking, is this true? Well, to verify this claim, we looked into his congressional voting record on two Senate bills aimed at financial assistance to small businesses. The first was the CARES Act back in March. That bill provided stimulus money to Americans and loans for small businesses. Perdue voted yes on the CARES Act. The second aid package was the HEROES Act, which would have provided a $3 trillion stimulus package in response to the pandemic. There was never an official vote on that one, and while Perdue opposed the HEROES Act, it never came down to a vote. The so-called GOP skinny bill version of it did. Perdue's voting record shows he did support that version, which includes small business relief. Therefore, we can verify this claim is false, since both votes he casted on this issue with the CARES Act and the GOP skinny bill provided relief to small businesses.
Democratic candidate Jon Ossoff's alleged ties to foreign governments have been a common thread in ads against him. 11 Alive Jennifer Bellamy verifies several claims concerning his alleged affiliation with the Communist Party and taking payments from the Chinese government.
It's a claim popping up all over Twitter. Is Jon Ossoff in business with Communist China? To verify these claims, our sources are the Communist Party USA, the United States Senate Financial Office, Insight TWI, and PCCW Media, the company in question. Let's start with the claim made in Senator Perdue's campaign ad.
One thing he can't lie about is endorsement by the Communist Party.
This claim is false. Our Verify team spoke directly with the Communist Party USA, which said they did not endorse Ossoff or anyone else. Now to the claim concerning business in China.
Jon Ossoff's being paid by the Communist Chinese government. Unbelievable, but absolutely true.
Actually, that's also false. Ossoff is CEO of media production company Insight TWI.
And we produce undercover anti-corruption investigations, investigations of war crimes, and investigations of human rights abuses.
A spokesperson for Insight TWI explained to us they license the films for distribution, allowing them to air on television stations based in 33 countries, including China. According to the United States Senate financial disclosures, Ossoff's company received up to $5,000 from PCCW Media Limited, which is based in Hong Kong, for licensing on an ISIS war crime documentary. Insight TWI tells us they received a gross amount of £754 and change, which is just over $1,000. Our Verify team also reached out to PCCW. In a statement, they said as part of its free TV English channel broadcast, Vivu TV, the group had a bulk deal for licensing documentary programming. And as for the claim that they are funded by the Chinese government, they said PCCW is a publicly listed company. To be clear, Ossoff originally had not disclosed that money in his May financial statement, but updated later to include the transaction. So we can verify these claims are false. Jon Ossoff is neither endorsed by the Communist Party USA nor his campaign funded by the Chinese government.
Voting in Georgia when you are not a resident of Georgia is a felony.
A warning from Georgia's Secretary of State ahead of the Senate runoff. And some of you want to know how officials make sure newly registered voters are legitimate. Let's verify with sources including the 2002 Help America Vote Act, the official code of Georgia, Georgia's Secretary of State's office, and 11 Alive's legal analyst, Paige Pate. To start, the Help America Vote Act requires states verify information on a new voter's application before they're added to the voter roll. In Georgia, state law is clear. Voters must be a resident of Georgia and of the county or municipality where they plan to vote. Let's break it down further. Voter registration is a county function, so Georgia counties issue precinct cards after reviewing and processing applications. And there are multiple ways to register. However, Georgia's Secretary of State's office says most people are using the new option to register when renewing or applying for their driver's license. Because of the Real ID requirements to get a license, these applicants provide proof of ID like a passport, plus their social security card and 2 documents showing Georgia residency. According to Georgia law, completed voter applications go to the county, where ID and residency requirements are reviewed. Officials can also challenge an application and hold a hearing if needed.
They would look at, did they get a new driver's license? Did they sign a lease or buy a new house here? Are they looking for work? Do they have a new job? That's going to be a pretty involved process, but I think that's how the Secretary of State's office would determine the true intent of someone who moved to Georgia in time to vote in the runoff.
With these sources, we can verify Dalton's question. It's true that federal and Georgia law requires new voters be verified before they're allowed to vote. That includes checking residency. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger warns that false registration can be punishable with up to 10 years in prison and/or up to a $100,000 fine. Have a question or claim for us to verify? Send us an email at verify@11alive.com.
Straight ahead. Your vote is tied to your health care. Where each of the Senate runoff candidates stand on fixing America's health industry. We'll verify. On the minds of many is health care and how the Senate runoffs can influence it in the future. And they're sounding off on social media. Holly tweets, "No one can afford the deductible with Obamacare." And Peter says Senator Perdue has voted numerous times to strike down protections for Georgians with pre-existing conditions. So what policies do our U.S. Senate candidates actually support? Does Democratic hopefuls Jon Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock have a plan to make public health care more affordable than the Affordable Care Act? And when it comes to the Republican senators, David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, do they have a plan to include people with pre-existing health care conditions? Let's verify. To find out where the Senate hopefuls stand, we went to these sources. Government website, healthcare.gov, orthopedic surgeon specialist Dr. Scott Barber for some real-world perspective, the fine print on the campaign websites of all 4 Senate candidates, and congressional voting records. For the Democratic candidates, let's begin with the current Affordable Care Act, better known as Obamacare. According to healthcare.gov, in a nutshell, ACA law has 3 primary goals: make affordable health care insurance available to those living in poverty, expand the Medicaid program for some of those same families in certain states, and support medical care delivery methods designed to lower the costs of health care. Republicans have argued the Affordable Care Act is too expensive for the average American, alleging increased premiums, deductibles, and substandard care.
The Democrat Party is pushing a socialist nightmare.
I'm absolutely terrified that the government is going to do a complete takeover of healthcare.
Dr. Scott Barber is an orthopedic surgeon specialist at Emory in Atlanta, and he says the ACA is costly. And like most Republicans, he believes free market competition is more cost-effective for patients.
What we want to see is a restoration of the doctor-patient relationship, and that is promoted by free market competition.
So what are Ossoff's and Warnock's plans to make Obamacare more affordable? Ossoff says his health insurance option reduces any concerning cost. He would, quote, offer Georgians an optional, not-for-profit alternative to private insurance. And then he goes on to say, more choice increases competition in the health insurance marketplace and lowers costs, forcing private insurers to compete with a public plan on quality and price. Reverend Warnock also says more needs to be done to reduce Affordable Care Act cost. On his campaign website, he says he supports legislation to lower the cost of prescription drugs, including legislation to authorize the federal government to negotiate with drug companies to bring down prices. So do John Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock have a plan to make public health care more affordable? Well, we can verify this claim is true, but these are just campaign promises for now.
Don't believe the liberal lies. Kelly Loeffler always puts Georgia first.
The biggest criticism of Republicans is their position on pre-existing conditions and health care.
Health insurance should always cover pre-existing conditions for anyone, period. Unfortunately, some people want to play political games with this.
In Perdue's 5-year tenure as a U.S. Senator, he has voted to repeal and replace the ACA, but the legislation failed in the House in 2017. Loeffler is also an opponent of the Affordable Care Act. Just last month, Senator Perdue and Loeffler introduced a joint health care resolution for Georgians, which includes their position on pre-existing conditions. It discusses the need for protections of individuals with pre-existing conditions, lowering the cost for prescription drugs and devices, insurance premiums, and other safeguards. How the plan will be implemented is unclear as the Democratic challengers dispute the details of their proposal, but we can verify this claim is true. Loeffler and Perdue are proposing a plan that does include coverage for people with pre-existing health care conditions. 11 Alive's Verify team is fact-checking other claims made against all 4 candidates. You can find more information on 11alive.com/verify or text VERIFY to 404-885-7600. After the break, it's one of the biggest hardships Georgia residents have faced in 2020. So how do the runoff candidates plan to boost the economy, as so many are still being plagued by the pandemic? We're verifying it all next.
It has been 9 months since the CARES Act put $1,200 checks in almost every American's hands. With Georgia in the national spotlight, we're verifying how Georgia's 4 Senate candidates really feel about another round of direct stimulus checks. Our sources are the 2 current senators' voting records, plus we combed through public posts and interviews in the candidates' own words. Let's start with current Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler. Records on Senate.gov show both senators voted for the CARES Act in March, which included direct stimulus checks of $1,200. But an interview with PBS NewsHour on July 21st shows Senator Perdue is not a fan of them.
I think in sending people right now through payroll tax is one way to do it. I do support that, actually. I support that better than giving just a direct payment like we did in the first round of CARES. I really oppose that.
During negotiations this summer on a second round of checks, Senator Kelly Loeffler told a local newspaper she was against the Democratic plan passed by the House called the HEROES Act, saying, "The Democrats' coronavirus stimulus package was a wasteful blue state bailout. The $3 trillion slush fund would give direct payment checks to illegal immigrants, fund abortions with taxpayer dollars, enable radical election reform, and dedicate millions for frivolous pet projects." Senate Republicans came up with their own plan called the HEALS Act, which did include another round of $1,200 checks, but that never made it to a final vote. The one that did was the GOP skinny bill in July, which provided aid in unemployment and paycheck protection, but it did not include another round of stimulus checks. Both senators voted for it, but the bill never made it out of the Senate. So we can verify Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler support targeted relief like PPP instead of direct stimulus checks to individuals. Democrat John Ossoff doesn't have a voting record, but he made his position very clear. On December 4th, he tweeted, "We need to pass immediate direct stimulus checks now." But when asked how much the checks should be, he said this during the Senate debate on December 6th.
I think we shouldn't get bogged down in the details. I think that we should rush immediate, direct financial relief to the American people.
So we can verify John Ossoff does support a second round of stimulus checks of some amount. We asked Reverend Raphael Warnock directly in a Zoom call on November 30th. If he were in the Senate, what kind of bill would he vote on? Would it include stimulus checks? And if so, how much?
Workers need relief. People who are unemployed, we need to make sure that people can stay in their homes. These are the kinds of relief that I would certainly provide.
He dodged it again during the Senate runoff debate on December 6th.
Can you give me a number?
Look, I think that we should at least make sure that whatever we do, workers are at the center of that relief.
All right.
On December 9th, his campaign sent a statement saying he strongly believes direct payments to struggling families should be part of the next COVID relief bill. So we can verify, Raphael Warnock would support a second round of stimulus checks, but he will not say for how much.
We got this question from a curious viewer. Is it okay to snap a picture as long as you don't show your ballot? We checked with the Georgia Code and the Secretary of State's office, and here's what we found. There's a section that bans the use of recording devices, cameras, or cell phones once you enter the polling place. And that's not just the voting booth, it's the entire polling place. We also found another section that bans the use of a cell phone once you've received your ballot. But what about when you're outside, potentially waiting in line for hours? Can you snap a picture then? Georgia law does not ban photography outside of polling places, so it's verified. It's okay to take a picture as long as you're outside the building without your ballot. When you finally reach the polling place entrance, it's best to just put the phone away and focus on your vote.
Thanks for watching 11 Alive's Verify the Vote, bringing you facts ahead of the January 5th Georgia Senate runoff elections. If you have a question or a claim that needs a little closer look, send us an email at verify@11alive.com.